All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Catherine Stevens, and I am the Library Marketing Manager with APA Publishing. Uh, Today, we will be doing an overview of APA PsycInfo Research Services. We're calling it this our feature spotlight. So we'll be highlighting a lot of exciting updates for you today. So if you have any questions for us off the bat, please submit them in the Q&A section. We'll address them live at the end or in the Q&A chat. We have a couple polls as well. So just if you'd like to participate, please share your experience. And after the end of today's session, the recording, presentation, and other resources will be available on demand following the webinar. All right, so let's get started. So our agenda today is I will introduce you to APA PsycInfo and its research services. My colleague Marta Soto will demonstrate various AI-powered features of APA PsycInfo research services. So those are Explore Journal, Analyze and Filter, Citation Mapper, and Browse Books. And then we'll have some time at the end for a Q&A. So I'm going to launch our first poll. So that is, how familiar are you with APA PsycInfo research services? Oops, it's the wrong poll, excuse me. All right, so how familiar are you with APA PsycInfo research services? Right? Okay, it sounds like a good amount of you are somewhat familiar or somewhat unfamiliar or even unfamiliar. That's okay. That's why we're here today. Thank you, guys. So what is APA PsycInfo to start us out? For those of you who don't know, APA PsycInfo is our abstracting and indexing databases of over 5 million peer-reviewed records. So that includes journal articles, books, dissertations, basically any kind of scholarly format you can think of. It contains interdisciplinary content for psychology, business, healthcare, education, law, social work, and so much more. Citations are already formatted in APA style, and you have access to APA PsycInfo on our own platform, APA PsycNet, or through a vendor platform such as ProQuest, Ovid, or EBSCO. And a subscription for your institution of APA PsycInfo includes our research services that are powered by AI and machine learning. So these research services included with APA PsycInfo are personalized services that enhance the discovery of the latest behavioral science research. So these tools leverage AI to curate and recommend content based on users' research interests. So you can sign up for these research alerts, enter your research interests or keywords, and it will generate content for you to explore and to discover. And this also supports the library and their ability to aid users throughout the research process. So it saves a lot of time and effort for both the library and the user. And as I said before, this is included courtesy of your institutional subscription to APA PsycInfo. So poll number 2, have you incorporated any AI-powered tools into your library resources? And if so, tell us which ones. Okay, interesting. So 93% of you said you have not incorporated any AI resources in your library. That makes sense. It's still a very new concept to a lot of us. So the new features and tools we'll be going over today, once again, we have Explore Journals, Citation Mapper, Analyze and Filter, and Browse Books. And these are all very impactful and interesting tools that I believe can support a lot of users in a lot of areas of research. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Marta, who will be providing a demonstration of these tools.
Okay, thanks, Catherine, for that intro. I'm going to go ahead and start my screen share now in just a moment. Okay, so ideally, you are now seeing the home page for our PsycInfo research services. I dropped this URL into the chat, psycinfo.apa.org. So a couple notes about access. If your institution subscribes to PsycInfo, you already have this. So you can go ahead and log in or open up the site within your campus network, follow along, explore this right after our webinar time together wraps up. Just be sure that you are logged into your institution's network. Additionally, this is platform agnostic, as we like to say. So if your institution's PsycInfo, it could be on EBSCO or PsycNet, ProQuest or Ovid. Just want to re-emphasize what Catherine said earlier. This is the same URL for everybody. So we're together at last, having the same design and the same user interface experience. So here we are on the home page. You can see that I have a more established account. I've signed up and have been getting notifications for some time. I also was using this platform recently to prepare for today's demo, so I have some recently viewed journals, books, and book chapters here. There's also this Discover APA PsycInfo, which is a place where anybody can start, even if you're brand new to this. So I'm going to start our first demo for now by opening up what is my recently viewed journal in this case. So we're going to focus on the tools that Catherine just lined out, and at the end, if we have time, I'm going to kind of circle back and talk a little bit more about setting up an individual personal profile and what you can get with that. But the tools for now, these are going to work for everybody just by going to the site and logging in. I keep saying log in, going to the site and being logged into your institution network. So first tool for today is Explore Journal. One of the ways I can get here is just by opening something that was recently viewed. So up at the top of this page, in that blue content area, you can see we kind of have that in the Explore Journal basics. There's this journal overview, including the total number of articles in PsycInfo, which is approaching 13,000. You see it's been covered in PsycInfo for decades. And there's some highlights about the topical coverage, what types of research are you most likely to find in this particular journal. And we have these metrics as well. So we can open up top cited from this journal in PsycInfo. You see the little citation counter is there at the side of the page. Zooming in a little bit. So these are the top 5s. I can open up these articles to go to an article level page, learn a little more about the research. I can also export the top cited articles. And this export will not give me just the top 5, but the top 250. The rest of these metrics are going to show you the top 5 for the journal. So in addition to cited, we have top 5 as viewed by PsycNet users. And then we'll have the top 5 authors as well as the top 5 methodologies. One thing you'll notice throughout this demo today is that PsycInfo's research services, they draw on PsycInfo Classic, that database that many of you are probably familiar with in your research. PsycInfo Classic has 5.5 million records, cited references, thesaurus terms, tons of different searchable data. And that wealth of information is the foundation of our research services, while at the same time, incorporating a little bit of AI technology and trying to present that data in new ways to you. So this methodology is pretty powerful on PsycInfo Classic and here as well. I can pretty quickly determine if I want to look for in my research empirical studies versus brain imaging versus literature review. That can be a hard distinction to tease out doing, keyword searching. But these methodologies, which are so valuable in the PsycInfo Classic search, are preserved here as well. So this little top bit is how we start exploring the journal. Again, there's almost 13,000 journal articles here, so we probably want to use these analyze and filter tools as well to hone in a little bit on the research that's most particularly relevant to me. So the first thing I'm going to do here is to type in a keyword. I'm going to search for the concept of pleasure. So once I search this, you can see the numbers and the topics and the authors are going to change a bit as they become more focused. I can choose publication years and say the last 10 years. For content type, I can say, I just want to see journal articles only. I don't need, letters or comment replies. So topics is showing me the top 10 most common. I can click to load more, but I can also just start searching for a topic by the initial letters to pull it quickly to the top. So I'll select both dopamine and dopamine agonist. For authors and methodologies, I don't need to select these at this time, but you can load more to see the full list. So this is just an example, one way you can use these analyze and filter tools to get 13,000 journal records focused all the way down to just the 2 that I'm interested in today. And as we scroll down beneath analyze and filter, we see the results. So each of these cards is going to be describing a particular journal article. In the card, you're going to see some basic information like the citation. If it has a long title or a long list of authors, you can click to expand or close those. In addition to the basic citation, title, and author, and all this, we can also view the abstract right here in the card. The open access logo is here when relevant. At the bottom of the card, you'll see these quick links to full text options. And then at the very top of the card, opening up one of these titles is going to take you into a record specific page. And we're going to go there next to see Citation Mapper. Also at the very top, you see that these were the filters we selected, the publication year, the content type, and the topic, and they're here color-coded so I can understand why this particular journal article was pulled as a hit for me. So I'm going to scroll up. At any time, I can be closing out of some or all of these filters to open up my results again. I can reset publication years. I can close out the content type or a topic. I can also just click Start Over, which is going to remove all of the filters and keywords that I had set. All right, it's taking a minute to reload. So now that I found those 2 results, maybe for the next step in my searching, I'll use dopamine up here as my keyword. I'm curious how the top authors about dopamine relate to the top authors in the journal. So I can pop up this list of top 5, and I'm just going to select the ones that are a match for my dopamine topic. Nestler, Weinbergen, and Ferrone. And I see that, across the journal, empirical study is the most frequent methodology. This is often the most frequent methodology throughout PsycInfo, but I can say, let's focus on that methodology for this search. And now I scroll down, we have a slightly longer results list. Instead of just 2 records, we've got a few dozen. These results, these journal article cards are, they are default sorted by showing you the newest. You can change that over here. You can sort by having the oldest first. You can sort by having times cited, so the most cited ones first. You can also sort alphabetically by title or author. So different ways to sort of sort this information. And now what we're going to do is open up this title. So if I'm right-clicking this title, we're going to now go from this journal level page into a record level page, a journal article level page, and see what different tools are there to explore. So here we are in a journal article page. Again, you can see that a lot of this information has come in from PsycInfo Classic. We have the link to full text, citation, abstract. You can view the full PsycInfo record if you want, the full list of references. A tiny bit of AI coming in here to show us related content. But the main thing we wanted to look at today was these article level tools. So at the bottom, we have a link back to the journal. This is one way that you can open Explore Journal. It would take us right back to where we were. There's a topic mapper tool that is sort of based on APA PsycInfo's thesaurus of index terms, our controlled vocabulary. We're not covering this one in today's demonstration, but it is very fun to play around with if you want to do a chance to do that on your own. What we're here for today is the Citation Mapper. So this is sort of based on that wealth of cited references that you find within PsycInfo Classic, but just laid out in a more intuitive discovery way. So here is our graphic. The cited references for this journal article that we picked from Journal Explore. That red node in the center is Lardner from 2021, right? That is the center node. There's a little bit of a legend here to help make some sense of this graphic, right? So the red node is the journal article that we're in right now, that record. These arrows, they always move backward in time. And you see we've got a couple sliding scales here. So the more saturated color is newer, while the most cited documents have a larger circle. So you can sort of eyeball, you know, this one is older, but it had a lot of citations, right? And this one is newer, but it hasn't had as many. So beyond looking at this graphic, the list of cited references is available here on the side as well. And I can open up one of these to move into a related record page. And then from here, the same options, going to the journal, going to the citation mapper. So if you've found one record that works for you, you know, we try to make it very easy to discover related research. Beyond this list of cited references are some filters. So in addition to the references as found in the reference list, right, a lot of this is older than 2021, right? It's 2015, it's 2019. These are the references that our main author used. But I can also say, just show me the cited by, right? So we see right here that Lardner 2021 has been cited by 2 newer publications, right? So this is something that you would not necessarily get from that classic cited references list. It's also, you know, an avenue into the future. You know, what sort of even newer research has been published to relate to this. You can select publication years. Say, I want this to be a little more present day focused. And then you can select, say, journal articles only. Now, if I apply these filters, it's a smaller graph because I've limited the year range. And if I go back to the cited references, this list has also become shorter, more focused to match the changes that I made here. I see there are questions popping up. I think the plan is for me to continue through the demo, and then we will circle back to showing some of the answers to questions as needed. Though I'm sure Catherine or Patty will let me know if there's like a real showstopper question that has come up. Okay, and then from here we can go back to this record page, right? So now we're familiar with the journal level explore pages, and we're familiar with these record level pages. In addition to journal articles, every book, book chapter, and dissertation in PsycInfo Research Services is going to have a record page like this with these 3 content analytics tools. I'm going to go back to the home page now. And we're going to look at our final tool today, which is Browse Books. So again, if you're brand new to PsycInfo Research Services, you might not have notifications yet, you might not have recently viewed yet, but this is a way that you can always get started. We've already looked at the Explore journal, so now we're going to go into Browse Books. And on this Discover Books page, there's three different ways to get into it. It's showing me books from my recent notifications, books that the AI has determined are relevant matches to the types of research that I have clicked and viewed in the past. And then there's also the most viewed books, the most popular for everybody. You see these cards here that I can sort of scroll through. They look similar to those cards that we saw for journal articles, but of course the data is a little bit different. Since this is describing a book and not a journal article, we're getting title, authors or editors, the year of publication, the abstract, and then this is the analogous link to full text. So I'm going to go ahead and say, show me this table of contents from a book. We can close out of that. So here we have the book level record page, and we also have the book chapter level record page with the full text, with the citation mapper. So again, there's always this sort of interplay between, browsing this large amount of content and then being able to very quickly pick a record you like that has some more focused tools. So this is just sort of the landing page for Browse Books. I can pick to show all books in my notifications, or I can pick to show all books within PsycInfo. So we're going to go here. Books has its own analyze and filter set of tools. So again, it's going to look kind of similar to the journal page, but the data is going to be different because we're not looking for journal articles here, we're looking for books. So here for Analyze and Filter, we still have publication year and we still have topic. We have authors, editors, though we no longer have content type and we no longer have methodology. So the first example I'm going to show on this Browse All Books page is how to focus this large amount of content into something that is a little bit more focused to my interests, right? So up here in the search box, I mean, you can see at the start that we've got 5,000 topics, almost 100,000 authors. The publication year range goes back to 1597. There are a lot of books within PsycInfo. So we can try to use some of our tools here to focus down on the topic I'm interested in. So I'm searching for trauma-informed. Once I run that search, you see the list of topics and authors has already become a lot more manageable. I'll say, give me last 10 years. I'll select trauma-informed care from topics. And again, I can use my trick rather than loading 300 topics, which is impractical. I'll search for the word therapy and see what pops up. And I'll select this one, the eye movement desensitization. That's relevant to trauma. And you can see up here at the top, it's remembering everything that I have selected, even if it's not visible. So if you're jumping around this list, you don't lose the topics you're choosing. Okay, I don't need to select an author in this case, so I'll just go ahead and scroll down. And here we go, these book cards, they're tagged at the top. We have the links to the record page, the links to the full text, author information and publication year information, the ability to sort by newest. Again, newest is the default. We can also sort by author editor and by title. So again, this is pretty intuitive if you ever want to go play around with some topics that are more relevant to you. So we showed, again, how we can take a very large set of records and quickly focus them down based on what I'm interested in. The other thing you can use one of these, books, analyze filter pages, is you can have sort of, maybe one record that you like or one author that you're following and use this to find more related content, right? Those are sort of the two research struggles. There's either I have too many records or I have too few records. So we're going to go ahead and start over, get rid of these topics. Go back to trauma informed. And what we want to do now is I'm looking at the top author. Her name is Kathy M. This is just a completely arbitrary example. This principle works for any author that you're interested in. Maybe her research is super relevant to you. Maybe this is somebody you've collaborated with or the leader in this emerging subfield. Maybe this is you. If there are people at your campus who have authored papers, there are some tools in research services that can help them keep track of their own published research and how it's being used and who's citing it and what is potentially related information. So our example author here has 5 books that she has written or edited. So we can go ahead and open up this most recent example. So I'm going to say, show me a table of contents. And from here, we can open up a chapter record, and we also have the book record, right? So this most recent book by our chosen author, we have the book and we have the book chapter side by side. So both of these are going to have a citation mapper, right? So if this is an author that I'm focused on, I go ahead and we're back to the citation mapper, and I can sort of see, who has cited them and, who might be citing them in the future. This book's from 2023, so it doesn't have new citations yet, though we expect it will over time. And you can go back and you can do this for every single chapter in the book as well. Book overall might have some citations for it. So beyond this citation mapper that is sort of drawn from PsycInfo Classic, you'll also have a little bit of the AI tool here. So for the book overall, it's recommending 10 related books. And the same is going to be true for every single chapter, right? So expressive arts therapy is a relatively broad topic, so we're getting some broad recommendations here. But again, as we go into some of the more specific chapters, you might start to find different relevant content here. So again, just different ways that these Explore Books tools can help you. You can quickly narrow your results to find your most relevant content. You can also track, one topic or one author or one citation, and through a combination of, 20th century metadata and the more emerging AI relationships between records, discover new avenues for your research. So that was our 4 tools for today. I think we have time to look into the sign up page briefly, but I also wanted to know if there are any pressing questions before I start talking about the individual account.
Yes, we have one question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to filter to open access articles or books?
Not at this time, not for open access. I think the idea is that open access is not your only shot to get the full text. Some of this content is published by APA, so you could get the full text that way. Some of it that's coming from other publishers, Elsevier or Sage or whoever, your library might have access to their full text on their website. I talked about PsycInfo's 5.5 million records. We're actually including even more content than what you find in PsycInfo Classic. We're pulling in PubMed, which is all open access free text. We're pulling in open access journals. In some cases, we're adding, like conference proceedings and those types of books, which are not typically behind paywalls. I'll pass it on to the product team, the interest in having an open access filter. Though I would encourage you to explore, other types of full text links that you might find as well. But thank you. It's always great to hear what our users and customers are thinking about, what they're seeing and what they would like to see. I know our developers are working on this constantly. There's always new tools, new little wrinkles coming out. So thank you for that feedback. That said, PsycInfo Classic does have a checkbox open access filter. I'm not sure this is ever going to replace PsycInfo Classic. The search capabilities are a bit more limited. I think PsycInfo Classic is always going to be the more powerful tool if you're trying to search for very specific things. And then this PsycInfo Research Services is going to just sort of aid discovery beyond what a metadata linked database can do for you. So we're going to before we return home, I'm just going to type in. So psycinfo.apa.org is the homepage for everything we've seen today. You can also change this URL to be sign up. I'm going to go ahead and drop this in the chat. So this sign up enables both receiving notifications and beginning to have the AI sort of become a little more customized to your research process. It will notice what types of research that you open and engage with, and it will then recommend, related things. Not just linking metadata to metadata, but the site has its own sort of like topic mapping that's going on beneath the surface. So it'll start, the more you use this with your profile set up, the more relevant the recommendations will become. So again, if your institution has PsycInfo, you already have this. And if you want to create a personal account, you just come here, put in your basic information. Be sure that you use the email that's part of your institution. This has flagged me because I put in a Gmail. Got to put in something where the email domain or the suffix here is recognized as a PsycInfo customer. Put in your topic keywords. You can choose to include PubMed or not. And then again, here's a little tool for authors. You can receive alerts when your work has been cited by somebody else. So once you do this sign up, you will start to get notifications. At most, you'll receive a notification digest every Monday. It's a single email. I set my notifications. I've set my topics pretty broad because I'm using this for demonstration purposes more than true research myself. But no matter how many hits there are, it just comes in a single notification. So I'm not getting, dozens of these messages. Also, just speaking generally, not necessarily about myself, if your inbox is a disaster, and you don't read and file all your messages as soon as you get them, and Outlook's search tool is questionable at best, all your notifications are preserved in here. So a copy of the email you get also lives here. So, you can use it in your email. You can just come here and catch up periodically on these notifications that you're getting. And everywhere that we've seen, browse books, it's able to show me what's in my notifications. And then the more I use this research services, the better this part is going to be for me. So yeah, that's the main thing. Anybody can come in here and use these browse tools. And find their way to records and use the citation mapper and use the analyze and filter. But if you sign up for your personal account, you will also get these notifications in your email on your homepage. And any of the AI recommendations are going to be a little better tailored to the research you're actually engaging with. Okay, so that's all I had planned for the demo. We can look, I guess, into the Q&A page now in Zoom, and if anybody else has any questions.
Hey, Marta, it's Patty. So
Yes.
there was one question asking about someone who accesses with Shibboleth, and they don't have institutional email addresses. So I reached out to the product team about that. I didn't think you had any information about that, but they were asking if they're going to be able to access that. I think that's kind of a question that's beyond the scope of the webinar, but we can reach back out. So I had two other things. I just want to make sure you have anything to add to that before I tell them that we'll answer it after the webinar.
Yes, I see the question here. Yeah, we'll talk with products to see how that type of access could potentially be accommodated here.
There was another question, and I'm trying to remember. I don't know if I know the answer to this. Verification codes. Do you know if that's device based? I know it's based on email, but I couldn't remember if they use a different device, if they've already gotten an email verification code, if they would actually have to, if you've logged in on your desktop, do you have to log in again if you use a phone for that? I don't know. That's also a question for the product team. I didn't know if you had any other insights on that.
If you're working on a new So I don't get asked for verification codes anymore on my work desktop, but I do think that if you switched browsers or you switched devices, you probably would have to get that verification
So yeah.
code. The verification code is related to logging into your individual profile to have this recognize that, oh, this is me who's using this.
Okay. Somebody asked a question about methodology being a filter.
Right. So I said methodology is not a possible filter for books, and that is just sort of how we set up our metadata on PsycInfo Classic. Most journal articles, when published, do have a particular methodology to their research. You don't necessarily see those methodologies being applied in the same way when the publication in question is a book chapter. I can hop over to PsycInfo Classic for a minute and just see. This might be another good question for product. So here I am, PsycInfo Classic, PsycNet version. We're looking at books only. So I'm setting methodology to empirical studies for psych books. Okay, we are getting some hits. I will ask product if they would consider adding the methodology field. I think it's tricky. I think that for journal articles, virtually every journal article will have a methodology, and for book chapters, it's only sometimes. So if you use the methodology filter, you're going to miss like a lot of the books. So I will say again, if you're trying to do precision searching, that's what PsycInfo Classic is for. If you know that you need to look for book chapters by methodology type, come here. Get your list of, most relevant citations and authors and thesaurus terms. And then if you need to do more research, like you need to do additional discovery, you can take some of those concepts or names back into research services. I hope that answers the methodology question well enough.
Yeah, Mark, I think there seems to be some general questions, just generally about the fact, I guess, that this is more of to me, it's more of a separate site than PsycInfo Classic. People are asking about linking to databases and things like that. I think it maybe isn't quite clear that this is kind of a separate site and how people are accessing it, right?
Yeah, so at this time, PsycInfo Classic and then PsycInfo Research Services are appearing on different URLs, and they're not actually linked. That is something that I think I've mentioned a product and we should mention again. This is probably the long-term plan, but it is true that there's no place here where I could be like, oh, let's go to Discovery. And there's no place here where I can go, oh, well, let's go back to the classic database. They are set up as separate tools on separate websites, and there is not direct linking at this time, but that is definitely something that we will bring up to product. And I so appreciate having all this feedback from you all. How do you know if you have PsycInfo Classic version? Your electronic resources librarian should know if you have PsycInfo Classic or not. And then another question about the open URL info. There's not anything you need to do for this full text access to work. It should just be, like, let me go back to here. So here we go. I'm going to say full text from publisher. So this is taking me to the Wiley page. I myself in the APA network do not have access to Wiley. So if I try to view the PDF, it's going to prompt me to pay. If you are already in your campus network, it should, in theory, recognize that you have access to Wiley. I'll tell you what, do you want to just test it out yourself since you are the EBSCO example that I can't directly emulate? Play around and try to link to full text from publishers. And if you run into an issue, send us a video screen recording. I have not heard of any issues with accessing full text. Right, so this is the same school. All right. I'm going to also follow up with you over email. I think that might be the better way to discuss some of that access stuff with you. So write down your name and your questions, and I will follow up. Yeah, I'm sorry I did not come prepared to answer that one off the top of my head. This has been in use for several years. I have not heard any users having issues or complaints about the direct linking with journals. But we're gonna look a little more closely at that and then follow up. Mhm.
Carter, we also have some updates from across APA databases that we could share while folks are submitting some more questions before the end of the session.
Oh, absolutely. Do you want to put your slides back up?
Sure thing.
Okay, so yes, as Catherine said, a few more things that are going new in APA publishing that aren't directly related to the PsycInfo research services. We've added some new APA thesaurus terms. Let me real quickly. Yes, in a moment, I'm going to also drop the slides into the chat so you can all benefit from being able to download and take them back with you. But yeah, we've added new thesaurus terms that can improve, your searching on those topics. There's also been a dictionary update. Did you know APA also has a dictionary? It's just like free and open to the public on our website. And that is another thing that our taxonomist has been managing and maintaining for us. The APA Monitor in Psychology is talking about some trends in the industry, something they published when we were close to the start of the year. And we also had an update for our APA Psychotherapy video database. They've added 12 new videos. So the thesaurus is updated usually 3 times a year. Psychotherapy video database is updated usually twice a year. So you may see some of that just going on continuously. Okay. And I have also sent a copy of these slides as a PDF. So if you're interested in some of these links in our closing slides, you can download and take that with you. Next slide, please. And here's what's new just for APA books. We're publishing 4th editions, 2nd editions of our handbooks, a brand new handbook in December of last year, and then we have our publication year 2024 ebooks collection that is emerging. So if you're interested in APA's own published books, some of our latest linked here for you. And then just our general resources and training for APA databases, search help and training center, coverage lists. So some of the useful things you'll find on and about our website. I know some of you may be supporting multiple products. Maybe you have multiple APA databases. A lot of what you'll find, the quick reference guides and the YouTube channel, you will see content specifically designed for the 4 different platforms. So you should be able to find the one that's most relevant to you. Okay, and then I think the next slide just says Q&A, if I'm remembering correctly. So you can go ahead. Oh, one last thing, the librarian promotional toolkit. These are some social media and other ways to advertise to all your PsycInfo users that it's being provided, in fact, by the hard work and the budget of the campus library. And that's why your students have access to use what they're hopefully using.
And please don't forget to follow us on social media for all the latest updates. We are on Twitter, now known as X, LinkedIn as APA Publishing, and Facebook as APA Databases.
Yes, I believe we'll be having another training focusing on some different features for PsycInfo Research Services going up sometime in the fall semester. So yeah, different ways to keep in touch for training opportunities for some of these product updates that we're having. I'll stick around. I'm sort of continuing to look through the Q&A, making notes where we should follow up, what we should pass on to product. So I'll stay through, our official close time of 12:30 if anybody has any lingering questions.
We have an anonymous question.
Mhm.
Are PsycInfo Research Services compatible with screen readers or other accessibility features?
Yes. I know that when we are developing new products, we always keep accessibility in mind, like from the early stages of design. I can see if there's a bit more information about that. I do not remember if Polaris or PsycInfo Research Services has gone through its official audit yet, but I will see what's the most specific answer I can get about that out of product. I'll tell you what, anonymous attendee, if you also want to send this question to our email address, then I can reply to you directly when I have that information. Well, and thank you all for your time and for your great questions. It's glad to see that there is so much interest in the product and in being able to access it to its full potential. I will be following up via email with several of you. Oh, and Captain, go ahead to the last slide. This is where you'll see the contact information. So you can always send us an email if you have late breaking questions or you're starting to use this. And yeah, it looks like the link to this recording is going to be automatically sent to everyone who attended or even registered today.
Right.
Someone did ask about the VPAT. Do we know if there's a separate VPAT for this or if it's covered by PsycNet?
There would need to be a separate VPAT, but I'm not sure if we have it yet.
Right.
Because it is like its whole own
site. That's what I was thinking,
URL.
yeah.
All right, well, that about does it for us. Thank you so much to everyone who attended. Please feel free to follow up with us with any further questions, and the recording will be available shortly. I hope everyone has a great day.